Welcome to Simply Good, Cooking with Rebecca. Today I'm making a traditional pot roast. It's a slow cooked piece of meat that's really nice on a cold day. It warms up the house, it cooks all day, so it makes your house smell really warm and inviting. First thing I'm going to do is get my pot preheating on the stove. My pot's preheating on the stove. You want to make sure you're using an oven-safe pot because it's going to go right from the stove into the oven. And also, the pot is preheating because you want a really hot pot to get a nice sear on your beef before it goes into the oven. So the next thing I'm going to do is chop up my vegetables that are going to cook with the roast. So I'm going to start with 1 onion. I'm doing all my vegetables in the food processor, just it's nice and easy, get a nice even and really fine chop on your vegetables. The onion goes first because it takes a little bit longer to chop, and then we're going to be adding carrot, celery, and garlic. So I'm going to start with my garlic next. 1 large or 2 medium cloves of garlic. Okay, once your vegetables are chopped, I'm just going to remove this and I'm going to take it over to the stove with me in a minute. But first, I'm going to season my meat with just salt and pepper on both sides. Okay, once my meat's seasoned, I'm going to move over to the stove to sear my beef. You really want to get a nice sear on your beef. You want to sear as many sides as possible, so, not just the top and the bottom. You want to try and get all around the edges as much as possible. And when you're searing meat, you'll put it down in a pan, which is a little bit of oil, and then it'll stick for a while, and it's done when it gives. So you shouldn't be pulling it off the pan. It'll give once it's seared properly. Once your meat is seared on all sides, you're going to remove it from the pan and put it on a plate. Set that aside for just a minute while we cook our vegetables that we chopped up earlier. They're all going to go into the pan. Alright, with my vegetables in the pan, just going to give them a quick stir. And to them, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of sugar. Okay, next I'm going to add some thyme. All right, and then I'm going to be adding 1 can each of chicken stock and beef stock. Then you're just going to stir everything together and add your meat back in. Once your meat is back in, you're just going to put your lid on your pot and stick it into a 300-degree oven for 3.5 hours. Sometimes the recipe calls for turning the meat every half hour. I've done it both ways and find that it doesn't really make a difference and certainly isn't worth the inconvenience of having to turn it every hour. So I can just put it in and forget it for 3.5 hours. Okay, my pot roast has been cooking in the oven for just about 3.5 hours. It's time for me to prepare the vegetables to go in it. I'm going to be putting potatoes and carrots in. I'm going to peel my potatoes and then cut them into about quarters, and then peel and just chop my carrots roughly and then add them to the pot roast. So I've finished chopping my vegetables and I've pulled my pot roast out of the oven. Now I just have to take the vegetables, add them to my pot roast, and then it'll go back in the oven for another hour. Pot roast is out of the oven and ready to eat. The potatoes, carrots, and meat are all really tender. The house smells great because it's been slow cooking in the oven all day. Pot roast is a one-pot meal that's easy, classic, and simply good.